But in the meantime, the way to get to this utopia, we would have to form dictatorships as a means to an end. And also to get to this utopia, any method that you needed to use to get to it, whether it be lying, cheating, stealing, killing, looting, burning, any way at all was acceptable. There was no moral standard. You could use anything you wanted to as long as it furthered the cause. Morality was simply a matter of furthering the cause. Immorality was hindering the cause. The cause was the cause of class struggle. All right. Now, if you read about Marx, you'll run terms like proletariat and bourgeoisie. The proletariat, the poor, the bourgeoisie, the rich, were always, in his mind, struggling against each other. The struggle would end with the inevitable triumph of the poor over the rich, and with the downfall of kings, the downfall of all nobility, and with what he called the masses. Oh yes, I must. Now, before I open up for anybody who wants to discuss it, I want to state there are no masses, folk. The masses is a term that, each of us, you, me, are all individuals. We're not part of a group of people you can call masses. The masses as such do not exist. All right, that's my opinion. So much my opinion. Anyone want to discuss anything that's I've said or anything they've heard? Yes?
Just the statement you made that he believed that what was the class struggle?
The class struggle would inevitably end with the triumph of the proletariat. They would struggle, but in the long run, the rich and the nobles would be destroyed, and the poor would be to triumph. But as a result of this, a heaven on earth or an earth-made utopia would result. It was socialism carried to an extreme. Anyone else have any ideas or comments? Like I say, in my day we did discussion because when I was in college, there was still a Cold War going on between the United States and Soviet Union, with nobody knew for sure what the outcome would be. And we would spend a lot of time. Today, the Cold War appears to be over. Not that the United States and Russia are friends, close friends, but the Cold War appears to be over. But the communism is still there. Anyway, socialist parties began to be formed, and they would try to get their ideas across and even try to take over governments. Socialist ideas did not take over governments until the year 1917. Basically, it took a major world war. But again, not everybody fell for the trap. I'm going to call it a trap. Not everybody liked the idea. Not everybody believed that it would work. Oh yes, Marx also favored revolution. Revolution was the way that this would come about. In other words, the workers of the world must all unite, rise up, rebel, and overthrow their kings, overthrow their nobles, overthrow their generals, and basically take over and create this utopia that we're talking about.
So
Revolution.
The masses that you wrote?
The masses, that was Karl Marx's term to describe the majority of us. He lumped us all together into one big term, which he called the masses. And to me, the masses do not exist. All of us exist as persons, but we exist as individuals. Speaking of individuals, Karl Marx saw no good in the individual. Each individual must sacrifice himself for the good of the cause. In other words, as an individual, you didn't exist. You're all part of, basically like in the insect world, where all the insects, the insect's life evolves around the colony, and the colony is under the control of the queen, and everybody does its own assigned task, whether it be fighting or working, basically for the good of all and not for the good of any individual. Okay. We will be getting back to Karl Marx later, and oh yeah, more will be said about unions, trade unions. Unions have become somewhat unpopular in recent times, but unions were where workers got together and organized, and they used a strike as their method of getting across their point to the management. And during the 27 years I spent at Lockheed, I participated in 2 strikes. It may seem like the strikes got us nowhere, but without that weapon of striking, the workers would probably not be as well off as vast as they are. Each strike, this strike might gain us a little teeny bit, barely notice. The next strike might gain, and of course people tell, what you lose during a strike, you'll never get back in your own lifetime. I said to one, yes, that's true, but it benefits the persons who come after us. And I told a World War II veteran one time, I said, when you fought, you weren't fighting for yourself, you were fighting for those who would come after you, namely persons like myself who came after the war. He had to agree to that, but said you never, or perhaps never saw the benefit yourself, but it was for the benefit of others. But anyway, the strike was the method that the unions would use. Basically, a strike is where the workers all get together in mass and say to their bosses, we're not going to work until you change the way you're treating us or change your wages or give us more benefits. We're not going to work. And they refused to work. Eventually, one side or the other blinks. All right, now look at the bottom of page 557, conservative order. When Napoleon was finally defeated, Europeans got together to try to, you might say, restore the past. Now, what I didn't go over with this class, but it's on the, it's recorded, hopefully it'll be online by tomorrow, was Europe had gone through the French Revolution, followed by the Napoleonic Wars. And it terrified all people of Europe because the French Revolution seemed to be an end of civilization, an end of all was good or right, an end of monarchy. They chopped off the king and queen's head, among other things. Well, with Napoleon defeated, the nations of Europe got together and they said, we're going to restore the old order the way it was, as if the past can never be restored. But not everybody agreed with that. From here, they met at the Council of Vienna, and Great Britain, Austria, Prussia, Russia met at the Congress of Vienna. And they laid out a plan that basically kept the peace in Europe, kept Europe pretty stable for 99 years. I mean, the Congress of Vienna occurred in 1815. Again, don't worry about the dates so much. And when I say 99 years, the peace finally broke down in 1914. But for the 99 years, Europe was largely at peace. And I think Europeans had gotten tired of fighting wars. The wars had been endless. There had been wars in the 1700s. Then the big Napoleonic Wars in the early 1800s. With the end of the Napoleonic Wars, the Europeans got together and they got several philosophies. One of them was a philosophy of balance of power. They said, wars are caused when one side thinks it can win, but if we can get Europe into 2 big camps that are equally balanced, it will deter nations from fighting because nobody will know what the outcome will be. And folks, this worked for about 99 years. Eventually the balance of power was broken. But the concept of balance of power came about. Principle of legitimacy. They said we must restore the legitimate monarchs, and these monarchs will help keep the peace. So basically they were not for democracy, but for monarchy, and well, the old way of living, the old life. And here in this council, for the first time, you run into the words liberal and conservative. These words are still widely used. The difference is the liberals would state, we must change. The old ways had its good points, but there's new modern ideas out there now which we must embrace. Those are the liberals. The conservatives said, well, perhaps we must change slowly and cautiously, because the past gave us much good that we ought to preserve, and if we've changed, let's be careful. The conservatives wanted to largely keep things the old way. The liberals wanted to bring about new ideas. Now, what we today, what they today would call liberal, today we might call ultra-conservative, because the left has moved. Well, you notice you use the term left. At the Congress of Vienna, the liberals sat on the left. I'll turn around so you can, basically the liberals sat on the left side. The conservatives sat on the right. And from that day to this, liberalism has been known as the left, conservative as the right. Now, what the liberals advocated was generally more democracy, limited the power of the kings, things that we just take for granted. By today's standards, what they would call liberal, we'd call ultimately really conservative. Another